Time for Geek Speak. And today we are going to be talking about a Datastudio. And what is it? Why you should be using it. And just off the top, as an introduction, my name is Phelan Lewis. I work with Pip at Seymour Digital Media, where we focus on search engine marketing.
And my name is Greg, and I am with Original 72 Creative, and we're a full service website graphic design and digital marketing firm in Vancouver.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And so, as I said at the top, we're going to be talking about Google's Data Studio, one of the parts of their marketing platform, along with Google Analytics, Tag Manager, and Google Optimize. And so, I guess just to start us off on kind of the super high level, like what is it? It's kind of it's a reporting tool that you can use that connects to most out of the box most Google products, except Google My Business. For some reason, they decided not to build a connector for that, even though other people have. But whichever, and they will connect to those, and it will create with a kind of a no code or a drag and drop solution for just like showing like how many people visited a page, or over the month, what day did I get the most users. So you could do lots of different types of graphs, lots of different types of scorecards to bring in all kinds of different data.
Yeah, I think that's the one biggest benefit of Data Studio is that you can pull in from multiple sources into the one location and create reports of all of the different sources that you're pulling from. That's a pretty powerful thing that you can do and have it all within one report from all of your different sources, whatever it is you're tracking.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely that's probably the part that we found the most useful, is also being able to like having the data there and making it super easy to manipulate it to be like, okay, over the course of a year, how many visitors do we have? And then you can compare that to the year before, so you can have like a little comparison. So we've done that before, where we did a year over year, and we showed the client that we had tripled his traffic in the last year. And so you could do these year over year comparisons, quarter to quarter, so you can get a lot of interesting insights in different ways that you can quickly manipulate the data, and also not have your eyes roll in the back of your head if you ever open up Google Analytics. It can be, if you don't really know the platform that well, it could be a bit overwhelming, whereas this can be a
Mm-hmm.
nice clean, like only the information you want to see. You don't have to like worry with what Google Analytics thinks you should see. And so it's a way to kind of add a little bit of a layer of removal from like just the raw data, where you do a little bit more synthesizing of it and have it kind of show up and show the information that's most valuable to you.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I've actually gone through some Google Analytics reports with clients, and they're like, "What's this mean? What's this mean?" It's like because there's so many things that there are there to distract them away, and I'm trying to focus them in on, okay, just look at this because this is what you want to see. But because there's other things on the report, they have questions, and it kind of muddies their understanding of what they're seeing. So with Data Studio, you can filter all that stuff out and just be like, here's the report. This is, what you want to see. Here it is, without all of that garbage to distract them. And it's a lot more clear. So that's really good.
Yeah, exactly. And then it also gives you a chance to focus on those KPIs, so that you can actually see like how many goal completions, what goal completions. Like you can really focus them on what's valuable to what's actually going on for their business. And and it's nice and it's clean, and it's all fully customizable. Um, so kind of building off of what you had said at the top of like you were able to connect different types of data. So the other really good part about it is that they did open up connections and even stuff on the graphs. Like you can make your own customized graphs. I mean, obviously, you'll need some sort of coding experience in order to do it. But if you have someone on team that knows how to do it, then that's definitely super powerful to open it up, that you can take full control over it, as well as if you have your own. Maybe you have your own proprietary system that you're connecting to, then you can make your own connector and bring in the data and then start to manipulate it there in Data Studio. And so you can be collecting data, or you could have a connection that's maybe you have something esoteric that you use that does have like an API connection for reporting, so you can
Mm-hmm.
connect those 2 points. I know it's a bunch of technical stuff, but it definitely is very useful in how they've opened it up, and they've made it a platform where they've taken care of a lot of, like, you don't have to build your own. You can just sort of connect 2 points of data, bring it in, and then get going. And then, and any analyst or anyone on your team can quickly make these reports without having to drag in someone from web development or software engineering to actually build this whole tool. And they just need to connect it, and then once it's there, then you're off to the races.
Mm-hmm. Now, what would you say your would be the level of knowledge you kind of need to set up or use Data Studio? Because it seems like you would probably want to get someone like yourself involved in setting up and creating the reports that a client would want, as opposed to the client themselves trying to figure their way through it. It is a little bit more technical to create, even though when it is all set up and created, the reporting is much better for you. What's the
Yeah.
level of experience you would need to use this for the average person?
Yeah, so for the average person, there's a lot of out of the box templates that you could use that Google's made, that, for e-commerce or just Google Analytics, that kind of gives you, a baseline to kind of get started with, so you're not completely starting with a blank slate. And as well, the other thing that I really like is you can also copy other people's reports, and then when you make a copy of it, you just connect your own data. So whatever their Google Analytics is, you replace with your new set, and so it's
Mm,
super easy to get started and get going really quickly. So that part is really useful. Granted, what you said is very true, that there is, if you start scratching like a little bit below, there's definitely some parts that it can be extremely technical. The biggest thing that I would find is, I wouldn't say it's as much about skill level, but it's about really mapping out what is it that you want to be reporting on. Like having that clear in your head when you're going in there, and just being like, oh, actually, I want to know, like, I want to have a table of all the goal completions, like the different, do they fill out this form or that form, and then I want to have that compared against, the source. So where did it come from? Did it come from my Facebook ads? Did it come from my Google ads? I want to be reporting on that part. And so, but that's something you would need to have in your head before you start going in and start playing around, because you can definitely, Pip and I have been very guilty about opening it up, and anytime we do reporting, you'll notice something's like not quite right, like the tool, like there's still connections, right? So sometimes you need to update something, but then you're like, oh, maybe on this table we could add a little something, and you go completely down a rabbit hole, and then 2 hours later you're like trying to make a new page. We have one report we're using right now where there's 48 pages in total on it, but only 9 of them are visible to anyone viewing the page. It's only if you're
mm,
editing it. So we're like building it out and experimenting with different pages. Of course, we hid that from the client, so they only see, the nice one that we haven't messed around with. But yeah, it's definitely, you can go down a rabbit hole. You can get lost looking at all the different metrics and dimensions you can pull in. But yeah, to me, it's all about having a clear idea of, like, this page is going to talk about these things.
yeah. And then identifying those metrics and picking them out properly, because I've come across that before. Is like you want to create a specific report and you create it with the wrong metrics, and it where it might look like it is what you need, but it's not telling you what you want, because you chose the wrong item to put within the report, right? Or you're comparing two wrong things. So you need to be very diligent in knowing what the report is that you want to create, and making sure you're taking the proper sources to provide you that information so that you have the proper picture.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's definitely one that you, and kind of building on that, is like, you don't want to build it this big dashboard that has a bunch of numbers that the client's just going to have their eyes roll in the back of their head anyway. because you've accidentally recreated the Google Analytics thing where you've reported on so much stuff that the client doesn't know this is what's important. The other thing that we've been using a lot more is text that you can just add in there, and what that will do is you can have explainers. What is it that they're seeing on this? What is the purpose of this graph? And so anytime the client or anyone on their team goes and looks it up, they can see, oh yeah, this is meant to report on goal completions, and it's broken down by type of goal completion and then also by source medium. So that way they know, oh, okay, so the Google ads have been doing really well, but so is my Google organic. Okay, that's awesome to see that that's getting a lot of ROI. And so this is just a really fast way for the client to quickly read and get a review of it, and then be able to use that data to actually like pull out, bits on what's working, what's not.
Mm. Awesome. So, do you have anything else generally to mention about Data Studio, or should we go into some basic reports that we want to talk about that people should have?
Yeah. So one thing that I wanted to mention is that, like I had said, that there is a lot of community involvement in it and a lot of connectors. I think connectors are what they're called. Of like when someone builds something that talks to SEMrush, and you want to report on that in your Google Data Studio for the client, so they don't have to go into SEMrush themselves. There's a lot of them that are out there. I believe if you can see them through the community guidelines, they've been vetted, but don't quote me on that. But there's some free ones where people are just kind of experimenting, and then there's ones like Supermetrics, which is one we use. It is pricier, but we're amortizing that cost across all of our clients, right? Because we're reporting on everyone's stuff, and it's just generally useful that, it may be a lot for an individual person, but for us as like an agency with lots of clients, then it makes sense to shell it out. And it is one of our bigger expenses annually, but it's definitely one that our clients definitely find a lot of value in. And so there's definitely something to be said for going for that. And it really depends on your situation, whether you to go for the paid one or try and find a smaller one, or even if you know someone that could code the solution, that might be something as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you wanted
I
to
would.
go? Oh,
I'm
go ahead.
surprised that Pip maybe wasn't in this one because she loves metrics, right? I
Oh
was gonna
yeah,
say
yeah,
when you were going through that, I mean, the analytics and reporting on what you're doing is pretty much the most important thing,
yeah,
because you want to know what your efforts are producing, and so without these, you're sort of flying blind. So it makes sense that it's one of those most expensive things that that you have, because of the fact of how important it is to make sure that clients are, see the results of their efforts.
yeah. Yeah, like the ROI, improving an ROI and being able to demonstrate with like reporting tools that, hey, this is what we've been doing, this is the results we've been getting for you, is critical for retaining clients, and also even selling them additional services. Like we'd seen just yesterday, we talked to a client who we're doing some ads for them, but now they're looking for, hey, could we do something with organic and the SEO? And so because we showed them that, hey, you have keywords here from the Search Console report, we're like, hey, there's some keywords here that would do really well, that are really actionable, but you're not optimized for them. And
Mm,
so this gives you opportunities. It's also, I have an anecdotal story of just, we connected Facebook ads for someone, and she was driving absolutely a ton of Instagram ads, and it was just not converting. It was like 0.03% conversions, like great numbers. The,
yeah.
the people were going to the page, seeing the product, but like almost no one was purchasing. And so we wound up getting her to stop spending money on Instagram ads because it wasn't proving an ROI. And so this really helps you with the client. really see what's going on and quickly see, oh, this, we get great numbers for the amount of traffic, but the actual sales just, it doesn't translate through. So let's move away from that. And so it gives you a lot of really good opportunities there,
Yeah.
um, to see
Or
that.
spend your money elsewhere where it might be performing better.
Yeah, exactly. And oh, one other thing I would mention is a gentleman whose YouTube channel is really good for this and giving me a lot of insights. Is It's weird name. It's called Coding is for Losers, and it's all about the guys about using no code solutions. Rather
Mm.
than like jump to coding, he's like, why don't we use like Google Sheets for most of it? And so he does a lot with reporting and has a lot of really interesting ideas on like getting you to think about different ways to report. And so that's
Mm.
a really good YouTube channel, for getting more out of it and how it connects to different parts. Because he mentions a lot about, he was spending a week, like hours and hours at the end of each month on each client, putting together these reports, and then they just found Datastudio, and it was pretty much saved them. They said it saved them thousands of dollars of a software developer pulling in all this and, smoothing out the data so that they could make this report. And so now they don't even need to do that. So it's definitely
Yeah.
one that automations are great, especially ones where big companies are taking care of all like the diagnosing and all the problems of actually connecting these parts. They just sort of take care of it, and you can just like plug and play and try and break the Datastudio report. And so
Mm.
it's definitely one that it's really helpful for any sort of drag and drop solution for this.
The Now, do people see the reports directly in Data Studio, or are they reports that you provide, like in PDF form or a link to? How does that work? Because typically, like the Google Analytics that I have set up for customers, they have access to that and they go in themselves and check it out. Is Data Studio the same way with your clients?
Uh,
Do they just go into Data Studio, they have access to it and see what you've provided them there, or are they emailed out as PDFs for them and things like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, the answer is yes. It's both. So you can set up a email delivery, which they will get an email set at a daily, weekly, monthly, custom time, and then what they'll do is it'll generate a PDF of that, whatever the settings were, like the time frame that we've already set it up to. They'll just get a PDF of that, but there'll also be a link to so that they can view the actual the actual report itself. And then like I kind of mentioned it briefly, but there's viewing permissions and then there's editing permissions. So all our clients, excuse me, have they have viewing permissions, so that that they don't go and make some big changes on the report and then all of a sudden it's broken. So that way they can also just play around with it and just move the dates around, move how the tables are going, like they can manipulate it themselves. And so it's always live, and it's, I wouldn't say it's real time, but it's pretty good for, you can get
Yeah.
day of information if you want it.
Yeah. I like that because from my experience, a lot of my customers we have the analytics tracking, but none of them ever log in and look at anything, right? So having that set up so that you can have the specific reports that you want and have them emailed to you weekly or monthly, as a PDF or something, then clients will look at it more and pay more attention, which they should pay more attention to the analytics. So I don't know how many times I've come across a client and been like, well, how do they're telling me, oh, something's not working, and I'm like, well, how do you know it's not working? Are you looking at the stats or whatever? And he's, oh no, I haven't looked at that for like 7 months. And then we jump in, and what they were thinking was happening was not actually the case. After we look at what they're talking about, we can show them what's really going on. So getting emailed reports on a time frame hopefully would lead to customers actually looking more at this information.
Yeah, there's definitely, and the other thing that we do as well is record reports. So what we do is we kind of go over it, and we spend about 30 minutes kind of going through, making some notes, and then recording with like Loom or with Zoom, and then putting it on YouTube, so
Mhm.
that as an unlisted video, and then just sending it to the client, and then that way they can see it at their own leisure. And as well, you can do even more synthesizing of, like, they have the dashboard, and you're saying like, oh, these numbers are up, that's really good for us, and we notice that it's caused a higher conversion rate, and most of this traffic is coming from here, which is what we've been trying to do. And so that's one where we can use the reports, and also make a video or have a monthly meeting with the client and kind of go over it. And so that
Mhm.
way you're also keeping yourself with the client in the loop, because you're engaging with them, you're having that moment of talking like, hey, we noticed this doesn't look so good, or in our Google Ads report, we like have search terms, you can bring those in and be like, we're getting some weird we're seeing some weird things here. Are you getting this in your phone calls? Oh yeah, I was getting this. Like, we had someone that was getting we're getting clicking someone was clicking on the ads and then calling them, and they were complaining about Sony Interactive. And
Hmm.
so yeah, and so we negatived out Sony Interactive as a keyword. And so there's moments like that where you can talk to the client, you have that moment of re-engagement with them, and it also means that you're staying in the loop with them, because ultimately, if they're happy, then you're going to be happy, because you're both swimming in the same direction, and you're working together, and they know what you're doing for them, and then they know what's going on, like what you guys have done, what you're going to be doing next, as well as here's some tactical things that we found going through the report. This page is getting a lot of traffic. It's got a lot of impressions but no clicks. Okay, what could we do to optimize it? Things like that.
So, can you take us through maybe a couple of the standard reports that you guys might set up for each of your clients? I'm sure because of this library where you can copy a template over to new customers, you must have a couple of basic ones that we could tell people are good reports to standard reports to have.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness, here, let's see if I can. I'm gonna try the old
Did I
screen
put you on the spot there?
a little bit, a little bit. So I'm gonna try this. Does this work?
We're going to do a screen share. Ooh.
Yeah, I was gonna. So when you're open up Data Studio, we do have these ones, but this template gallery here at the top,
Hmm. Hmm.
honestly, it's you're going to add a little bit to it, but for most of the case out of the box, a lot of them are actually pretty good,
Yep.
especially where is that one? The Google Ads. So for us, this is, we're using a lot of the Google Ads. The Search Console is super useful as well. Um, and they're out of the box, they're actually pretty good. So I will definitely recommend using those ones.
Yeah, I love the info you get in Search Console, and obviously Google Analytics is got good information. But yeah, I hate having to go to the different ones to see it. So you can basically pull both of those sources in Data Studio and report all of the information from those two yourself in a combined location like this.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely the ones that we do off the top, like just straight out of the box, is Google Analytics, Google Search Console, like just easy ones out of the box. Use the standard templates that they have. Google Ads, if you're running Google Ads. One we've tried this Google My Business, because we do a lot of local SEO.
Hmm.
So we do use Supermetrics for that one. There is one an out of the box free solution called Jepto. I couldn't really use it the way it wasn't designed for me. It was basically like, as an agency owner, it was more for an individual business, because you can't separate out all the Google My Business listings. So for ours, it showed every single client of ours. So it didn't really work the way I would want it to out of the box. But it's definitely, there are free solutions there. And so those are kind of the four critical ones that we've, without a doubt, we're setting these four up. Like,
And do they have as well some standard out of the box templates for like a good e-commerce site that maybe show goal flow and or user flow, goal flow, and basic product
yeah,
analytics and stuff like that as well?
yeah. So let me just show you this. Uh, so in here, when you go to do the template library, there is this one, merchandise store, that is e-commerce, and it's the data that you're getting in there is their actual merch store, but
Yeah.
it's got some. It does kind of a breakdown based on the Google Analytics ones of like, I think they've had to update it, but this one I've experimented with. It's definitely interesting, these bottom parts, because it's got like how many people viewed products, how many people added to cart, what was the revenue, and then also what was the rate that they went from cart, that they added to cart. So like how many people viewed to how many people added to cart.
Yeah.
Uh, and so it also breaks it down by like type over here, source of medium, and then also like you can see what the conversion rate is by the channel. So they can do out of the box some pretty interesting ones for us playing with that. And so it's definitely, of course, you're going to want to experiment with your own. The Google Analytics enhanced e-commerce can be a little fidgety if you're doing something with like Shopify. I've noticed that there can be discrepancies, so you would want to take your Shopify results. But I mean, for the most part, if you're trying to do some analysis on it, it generally is good enough that you can start. You'll see a trend in there. It's kind of
Hmm.
what I do is I'll look at the Datastudio, and if I see something really weird, then I'll dive into the Google Analytics and figure out like, okay, what is causing this, and do some really deep dives. This is really good for doing high level stuff with the client, doing trend lines, seeing what's really working, what's not working, big overview stuff. If you're going into really granular detail, definitely go to the source, your Google Analytics dashboard, your Search Console dashboard, and really see what's going on. But just for quick talking to the client, you could say Google Ads have been doing really well. We spend X much, and we've had this many leads come in because of it. Here's the conversion rate on the Google Ads. We think we should probably up our budget in order to get you guys some more leads.
Yeah.
Um,
Awesome.
yeah.
And all those, again, those are the basic ones, but you can actually modify those to your liking and add additional information
Oh,
as
yeah.
you want. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can even, so there's all kinds of really cool things of, you can blend data. So you could blend how much, your Search Console data with your Google Analytics. So you could see how many people, like which pages were getting the most clicks from Google, and then how many of those people were converting on the page. So you can do all kinds of weird stuff. You can also do controllers. So for the keywords that you're showing up in Search Console, you could be like, I want to see any keywords that I'm ranking for that contain the word SEO, and then you could see all the keywords that you're ranking for that contain the word SEO. So
Yeah.
you could do really cool stuff like that. Or the other fun one that I've experimented with is making your own dimensions. So taking two, because like on Google My Business, they have a thing called actions. Actions are like a click. So I was like, oh, okay, so why don't I take the total number of clicks, divide that by the total number of views I get on Google My Business, like for local SEO. Well, that kind of gives you a makeshift click through rate. So we're
Right.
seeing like how many people for how many actions, for how many views, how many actions that people take, and it gives you a percentage, a
Right.
2 to 5%. And so it's a really useful ways to kind of expand on what's already existing there. Um, One other thing I wanted to note before we close this out, if you do go with something like Supermetrics, they do, most of them have out of a page, you'll have to type in Supermetrics, but like Google My Business, they have a template that you can get started with as well and make a copy of.
Hmm.
Same for Facebook ads as well. Um, Yeah, but it's definitely a lot of fun, and there's a lot of things to go through. If you have more questions, just leave it in the comments, and I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Perfect. Well, that time went fast.
Yeah, yeah. It was it was like we just started a minute ago. Then all of a sudden I looked, I was like, oh, geez, okay, we're
I know.
closing.
Time to wrap
Uh,
up.
yeah, exactly. Okay, and so that's it for us for now. Again, my name is Phelan at Seymour Digital Media.
And I'm Greg with Original 72. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye for now.